We are paid, that's all. We are God.
Hey guys, this is Naruto and Percy Jackson crossover. The part 8 of What If Naruto Was a Demigod. Naruto finds out a secert that blows him away. He's a half-blood. With his new friends he make a new name for himself and find what he truly ever wanted. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe and check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 24, Hunter vs. Hunters. Naruto was panting as he hid behind cover. His hunter was close, he could feel it. He cursed to himself again. How did he always get into these situations? He glanced around and moved again, heading back to the one spot he needed to be. Almost there. As he slid to a stop, he looked around. He listened, hoping to hear where his hunter was. After a minute, he heard her but turned too late. With her clawed hand around his neck, Medusa lifted Naruto until he was par with her face. He kept his eyes closed, but it did not help as the monster woman tightened her grip. You made a mistake coming back here. I will have my revenge against you, the Athena brat and the sea spawn. I will take great pleasure in shattering your stone body and sending them to your friends. I may even save a bit and send it to your mother. Naruto growled as his eyes started to creep open. Too bad you have a little problem. Medusa growled, but Naruto went on, you see, you rely on those eyes of yours a little too much. And he pointed to their feet as he looked into her eyes. Medusa was stunned at his actions before the stone body poofed away. She growled, but not before looking down to see what the clone was amused about. The paved stone under her feet had a large carving into it. It formed a large X. She gasped, realizing too late that this was a trap. She straightened to move before she felt a piercing pain in the back of her head before an arrow jabbed out of her forehead. Let's rewind for a second. The arrow pulled out of her head and followed a path through the stone statue garden. The arrow flew in a perfect line through the gaps and openings the statues made until the arrow was armed in a bow. Naruto held the bow tight and drawn before he gained the memory of the shadow clone, showing Medusa was in position, and fired. Naruto heard the sound of his arrow hitting true to its mark and the body dropping. Naruto jumped from his spot and headed to Medusa's body. He had heard a little while ago that the famous monster had returned, so he planned ahead and found a path where he can kill the monster without having to get close to her. The trick was getting her to that spot and finding the spot itself. He counted himself lucky, he guessed at how much Medusa underestimated him. That seemed to be a recurring theme wherever he went. Naruto landed by the body just as it finished dissolving. He found that instead of the head like last time, 2 vials filled with green liquid were left behind. Naruto muttered as he picked them up. I guess the head only gets left behind if you cut it off. Makes sense, since that's all people ever did to kill her. I wonder what this stuff is though. He shrugged and placed the vials in his pouch before he started out of the building and back towards his camp. He found the woods quiet as he walked back, almost too quiet. He frowned before he heard the sound he heard many times before and shifted his foot as an arrow struck the dirt right where his right foot was a moment ago. He heard the drawing of more strings and even more arrows flying. He jumped back as his spot was riddled with arrows. He looked up and ahead. Alright, any reason you guys are trying to turn me into a pin cushion? I've been one already, and let me tell you, it's not fun. Quite boy. One voice called out. Naruto noticed this one was female and the way she said boy was full of venom. Thou shall not joke anymore. Thy. Naruto mimed to himself, confuses with the word before he said, look, I don't know what I did you make you mad lady, but you don't really know me if you want me to stop joking. Thou shall hold thee tongue before I shall remove it. Naruto sighed but was still ready to move in case they fire again. Okay, what do those words mean? They sound like English words but I can't really understand them. The unseen girl screamed in anger before more arrows fire at Naruto. He did not move as the arrows hit him from all sides. He staggered before he poofed into smoke and became an arrow-ridden log. His attackers stopped stunned before they heard from above them, you know, I don't think I deserve that. It was an innocent question after all. A good number turned all with bow drawn before they stared at Naruto, who was standing upside down on a branch above a group of them. So, any reason you ladies want to us me as target practice? One of them growled out, this one looking fairer than the other with a silver tiara-like crown in her hair. All in all, Naruto thought she could pass for a princess, which he would know as he was friends with one. Thy sin is among the worst I have thought possible. You dare show yourself like this not only to us but to thy world for thy deed. Naruto tilted his head, okay again with words I can understand. The leader, as Naruto figures she was from her attitude and attire, gritted her teeth getting red in the face. Another girl replied knowing the leader's words were not affecting him, you have caused great shame onto our mistress and her way of life. Her title and reputation has been ruined by your actions and lies. Naruto scratched his head here. He did not know these girls and he had no idea who they were talking about. Okay, I got what you mean, but I don't understand. I never seen you girls before and I have no clue who this mistress is or how I did anything to her. The leaders could not stay silent any longer, they are lying. A boy and half-blood like thee are so arrogant. To declare themselves a child of our goddess and not expect retaliations. Naruto frowned here, when another one of his attackers said, we are the hunter of Artemis, the maiden goddess. She is our leader and has been a maiden for thousands of years. To declare yourself her son is both an insult and outrage to her name. Naruto now narrowed his eyes. He knew his mother had a group of maidens as her followers and handmaidens. While he respected them for being his mother's aides, he did not like how they rejected his heritage. Listen girls, I never declared anything at first. My mother claimed me and I am her son. You don't believe, then ask her. I have to be lying. The leader shouted before she bowed her head shaking in both anger and fear, I have been with Artemis for many years. In her prime, I have been by her side. She has pride at being a maiden. To even say she just gave it up and even went as far as to have a child who is a world-destroying male is worst. Her head shot up and she glared at Naruto. We are here to fix that mistake. You will never disrespect our lady ever again. Naruto sighed. He both respected them for going so far for his mother but also could not hold his anger back. He just gotten his mother after being alone for so long, now these girls are saying he was an insult to her, a mistake. He knew words would not settle this and part of his wanted to teach them a lesson and they were willing to fight him, then so be it. You want me, then come get me. And with that he jumped from his perch into the woods. The hunters were started at the sudden action before some tried to hit him in the back with arrows. Naruto managed to dodge them all. They started to give chase knowing he was getting too far ahead for them to hit with their arrows. As they got closer, Naruto turned with a smirk on his face. Let's see you guys track something that can be everywhere at once. Then he crossed his fingers into his favorite hand sign, Shadow Clone Jutsu. 5 Naruto poofed around him before they took off in different directions leaving him behind. The leader scoffed, having decoys is pointless if thou does not move with them. And she fired her arrow at Naruto. Naruto did not lose his smirk as he replied, you really don't use your eyes that well, do ya? Before the arrow struck his chest and he poofed away. They hunters gaped before the leader scowled, so he moved with the rest of those clones when they took off. He is a tricky boy but is not match for the hunters. One hunter nodded to the leader, don't worry Zoe, we shall find him and make him pay for his crimes. The newly dubbed Zoe nodded, alright, I have 4 trails to follow, when the target have been found I are to capture thee. Once then signal the others and we shall deliver judgment upon the boy. One hunter looked nervous before she said, shouldn't we bring him to Lady Artemis? I believe she should be the one to deliver the blow to the boy that shamed her honor. Zoe shook her head, no, Our Lady has enough on her mind at the moment. She does not need to worry about this matter and shall be relieved when she hears this outrage has been silenced. The hunters nodded before they started to split into groups and started off. One hunter glanced at her companion. I am glad Auntie Kay is out talking with Lady Artemis right now. She can help Our Lady with her problem and we can get rid of this problem. The hunter nodded before all the groups were out of sight from the part of the woods. High on one branch a small sparrow was watching and listened this whole time. When they were gone, the bird poofed away as if it was never there. Scene change. Naruto stopped with his back to a tree resting from the mad dash he made a while ago. He kept alert, as he was sure the hunter must not be far behind him. His head shot up as he sensed something. Naruto then quickly drew his bow and shot several arrows. Then arrows flew through the air and met the oncoming arrows head-on. They struck and forced to chatter to the ground. Naruto got up and made to move but the hunters appeared, this group led by one of their senior members. Your aim is good but we will not be bested here. Naruto smirked before he took off again. The hunters gave chase firing more arrows. Naruto dodged them with ease before he pulled one arrow he had tricked out. He fired it ahead and made a seal. The arrow broke apart in the air with the tail falling to the floor and the split arrowhead shooting to the side connected by a cord and rooted themselves into two trees. Naruto slid under the wire cord before he straightened up and kept running. As the hunters ran closer, the arrow end blinked and flashed. A light went off quickly. Blinded, the hunters had no time to react as could not see the cord, causing them to get caught around the middle and tripping over themselves. Some flipped over the cord when hit and others fell back as the rest fell on top of them. Naruto laughed seeing them. Got to be careful of that flash photography, it scares the wild animal real easily. The hunters growled at his taunt before they untangled themselves and got up despite the spots in their eyes. One hunter recovered enough to jump forward and slash at Naruto with her knife. Naruto split his hunter's moon and blocked the slash, holding the blade in a reverse grip. Naruto pushed her back as the other hunters recovered enough to draw their knives and ran at him. Naruto blocked another slash and jumped back from another. One went for an overhead stab to try and finish him. Naruto pivoted on his foot and spun around her and her attack. Now behind her, Naruto wrapped an arm around her neck and the other holding her other arm with the knife. He turned them around to the other hunters, making them pausing in their attacks. The senior hunter grunted as she struggled in his grip. Then to her and the others' surprise, Naruto released her and kicked her back to the group. As she fell, one hunter caught her. The rest, if the hunters changed at Naruto before they were blasted with something wet from behind. The senior hunter was getting up when the tag on her back exploded, covering not only herself and the hunter that caught her in paint but also the back of the hunter that ran at Naruto. Naruto used this moment to do one long leg sweep and knocked the other stunned hunters to the ground. He stood over them as they were covered with dirt, twigs, leaves and bright pink paint. He gave them a salute before he poofed away, showing he was a clone. The senior hunter in charge screamed in anger at being played like that the whole time. Scene change. Another group of hunters was sneaking towards Naruto, who was resting on a rock near a clearing. They decided that stealth was the best options and to take him by surprise. One drew her hunting knife while others stayed back with their bows for support and two held a net and rope to hold him. As they crouched and crept nearer, one hunter stepped and a sound was heard. It was not the sound of a snapping twig as they know to watch for those, but the snapping of a wire. A trip wire to be precise. The hunter had no time to react as someone fell from the trees above and covered her in some sort of goo. She grimaced as she felt whatever it was before the ground exploded in front of her and covered her in dirt and feathers. She tried to move but was so sticky it was hard to do. The other hunters rushed Naruto, knowing they have been found out. One hunter heard something click under her foot and the ground under her burst and a dust or gas covered her. She kept running before she was forced to stop. Her body felt all sticky and itching badly. She scratched at her body to try and ease the sensation. The two hunters with bows aimed to fire but heard something flying through the air. A shuriken raced just by their face and snapped the strings of the bows. The arrows fell and burst under their feet. Unfortunately for them, they planned on using Fart Arrow to confuse Naruto and both got gassed instead. They coughed and tried to escape the cloud and raced to Naruto, knowing their cover was gone and long range was no good now. As they stepped out of the cloud, the ground gave way under them and the landed crumpled in a pitfall. The last hunter was racing towards Naruto, who did not move. She ran through the trees with her net in hand ready to catch him. However, she jerked as she was pulled upward. She found herself hanging from a rope around her ankle. She struggled to free herself as the net fell. Naruto glanced up at her as the net draped over his shoulder. Naruto gave the trapped hunter the peace sign before he poofed away. The hunter screamed as she jerked around on the rope, "I'm going to kill him." Scene change. Naruto laughed when he got the remaining memories from his clones. "Man, Mom might be a little mad when she finds out what I did, but it would be so worth it. Here they are." Zoe cried as she jumped through the trees with her knife draw. She stabbed Naruto, but he poofed away as her dagger was stuck in a log. Wow, that was fast. Naruto muttered before he slashed two arrows with Hunter's Moon. "I had the other clones stop so the other hunters can find them before they messed with the girls. I just kept running. You caught up to me fast, even with more shadow clones leaving fake trials." He blinked, thinking of something as he ducked and kicked another attacking hunter. "Still, I wonder why my last clone did not pop yet. I figure the other group caught up to him by now." Zoe growled as she freed her knife and chucked the log at Naruto. Naruto sliced the log before he was forced to duck as Zoe was already on him and attacked. The pair traded blows with their blades. Naruto mostly parried and countered with his two blades, but despite only having one dagger, Zoe was faster and counter his blows, before lashing out some more. Naruto could not help but grin as the fight went on. Naruto noticed she was faster than the other hunters were and seemed to be more skilled. She did say she was with mom in her prime. I guess that was when she was still in Greece. All those years of training really paid off. The other hunters followed them as the pair fought through the forest. They knew Zoe wished to take him one here and now to finish this vendetta. Some had arrows at the ready and knives drawn, ready to jump in case was pushed away and they gained an opening. "Man, you're good," Naruto said as he forced their blades to lock as they leaned forward trying to push the other back. "I guess all those years training under mom must have been worth it. I wish I was able to get that much training." Zoe gritted her teeth, both from her struggle and from Naruto's words. "I still continue to lie to my face like that?" Zoe slowly reached for her second knife not to draw his attention. "I still wish to keep this facade." Naruto lost his smile. "I can handle you girls being mad at me. Hell, I can handle you guys hating me. Nothing I never felt before and can get over it. But don't say anything about me and mom." Zoe narrowed her eyes with her hand on her dagger. "She is not your mother." Zoe slashed at Naruto with the second blade and Naruto was forced to jump back. Zoe attacked again with even more power and anger to her blows. "Our goddess is not, nor will she ever be your mother. To say that is an insult to her name and I intend to clean it. Even if Our Lady desires to have a child, she would never have one like you. She would never claim nor love a boy like thee. She would never have a nasty, incapable, hateful excuse for a boy for a chiug." Naruto had enough and slammed his forehead into Zoe's. Zoe staggered before Naruto went on the attack for the first time. Zoe recovered and parried his strike before she looked into his eyes. She gulped seeing the fierce look. Naruto kept attacking as they started to exit the forest and into a large meadow. "Say what you want about me, say all kinds of nasty things about me, but never, ever, say anything about mom not wanting or loving me. I never had a mother before. I had nobody and then she came back into my life. She found me, she helped me, she claimed me, she loves me. Do you know what it is like to have been told you were abandoned, unwanted and unloved? I meet mom before and I know she would never say those things. And I won't let you." Naruto caught her blades and twisted his own, causing both to fall from their hands. Zoe watched as Naruto pulled a fist back. "Tell me she hates me." Zoe was struck right in the face. She was lunged backwards and landed in the grass and slid to a stop. Naruto roared as he jumped at her again, with the hunters racing out to stop him. Zoe watched as Naruto pulled her up by her shirt with another fist ready to hit her. Zoe froze before a voice cried out, "Enough!" Naruto froze his fist inches away from a scared Zoe's face. The other hunters stopped as well before everyone but Zoe turned towards the sound. There stood Artemis, her arms crossed, a frown on her face and looking deeply annoyed. Next to her was a taller young woman with long red hair wearing hunter's gear. Artemis then said as she got everyone's attention, "What is going on here? End. Oh, make the last clone's adventure with the hunters." The last shadow clone sat bored in his cage. He actually was caught by the hunters and they managed to get him locked inside the cage. He would have dispelled but decided to see the looks on their face when they discovered he was a clone would be worth it. Now the hunters were lifting the cage, which had bamboo pole out for 4 hunters to lift, and trying to find camp again. The leader of this group, Phoebe from what the other hunters were calling her, was trying to lead the way, but being the smart-ass Naruto was, he decided to help. They kept asking each other their idea of where camp was, so he gave them directions and path to choose from to go, and they kept going different ways. Naruto also did not feel like telling them that he was picking the right paths, but they figured he was trying to trick him, and to be fair he was, but not the way they thought. Now they were arguing, trying to figure out the right way, while Phoebe was trying to convince the other hunters that they were not lost. They are going to be so pissed when they find out I am just a shadow clone. Chapter 25, The Bond of Family. Artemis, goddess of the moon, the hunt and maidens, sighed leaning back against a tree near a small pond not too far away from their camp. "What should I do, Kushina?" Her companion gave her a deadpan look. "How about you stop putting it off and tell them the truth? They're big girls, they can handle it." "How can I tell them I have a son?" Artemis asked aloud, covering her face. All the years I was a maiden, if I just say I gave up my vow and gave birth to a son, it will look like I was a hypocrite all along. They have to find out sooner or later, Kushina pointed out. I think it would be better if they heard it from you and for you to explain it, than to hear it from someone else and they overreact in some way. Hell, if you don't tell them, they might go and attack him at first sight. Artemis frowned. I don't think it will come to that. Art, as your friend and someone who looks at problems from different and sometimes impossible angles, let me tell you, there is no doubt in my mind that they will attack him if you do not say anything. Artemis frowned here and Kushina sighed, seeing Artemis was still dragging her feet. Well, when in doubt, kick them in the butt to get them moving. Art, are you ashamed of Naruto? It was a good thing Artemis was immortal, because with the way her head snapped to her friend it might have snapped in half. What? I think you are scared of what they will think of your son. Kushina went on, seeing that it was working. I mean, why else would you keep it hidden for so long after he came here? Artemis frowned before she got to her feet and started off. Where are you going now? Kushina asked with a grin that Artemis could not see behind her back. To talk to my hunters. It is time they know the truth. Kushina rolled her eyes at her friend's attitude. You'd think she came up with the idea herself. Artemis led the way back to her camp, knowing Zoe mentioned on taking several hunters on a tracking exercise while she needed to think. She figured she would break the news when they all return. When she got to camp she found it empty except for a few wolves lazing about. Artemis raised a brow. Where is everyone? Zoe shouldn't have needed all of them, she muttered to herself. Kushina shrugged as she looked around. There's no sign of a fight, so maybe the senior girls are helping Zoe. Artemis stayed quiet before she sensed something in the forest heading their way. She also sensed a fight going on and faint yelling. Before Artemis could extend her senses to it, she was shocked when Zoe flew out of the forest like she was hit. She landed in the grass and slid to a stop. Then to her surprise her son, Naruto, roared as he jumped out of the woods and at Zoe. The rest of the hunters came racing out after him. Artemis watched as Naruto pulled Zoe up by her shirt with another fist ready to hit her. Artemis froze, fearing the worst and how this could have happened before she shouted enough. Naruto froze, his fist inches away from a scared Zoe's face. The other hunters stopped as well before everyone but Zoe turned towards her. Artemis stood there, her arms crossed, a frown on her face and looking deeply annoyed. Artemis then said as she got everyone's attention, what is going on here? They were all quiet, not daring to speak. Naruto released Zoe and got off of her. Zoe got to her feet and bowed to Artemis, my lady. Before she could make an excuse Naruto waved with a small grin and said, hey mom. The hunters all glared at him before Zoe grabbed him by his shirt. Don't thou dare address our lady with that lying title. Artemis stiffened while Kushina blinked. Wow, I was joking when I said they would all attack him. Zoe, I knew would, but all of them. Artemis stepped forward. Zoe, release Naruto please. Zoe looked at Artemis but did what she was told. Naruto was quiet as Artemis walked until she was right in front of him. She stopped and looked around at all her hunters and her son. Now explain why you are all fighting. The hunters all unable to look her in the eyes. Naruto looked at all of them, not sure what to say. Zoe finally had the courage to speak up. Thou were defending thou honor, my lady. This boy has been claiming to be of thou noble line. Such an insult from a boy is unforgivable. We decided to punish him for thy insult to thee. We did not tell you, for we did not wish to bother you with this trouble. Artemis stiffened hearing what Zoe, one she considered a loyal friend for many years, said directly to her that they wished to hurt her son. She could tell they would take it too far with that they had planned. She turned to Naruto. Is what they say true, Naruto? Naruto blinked before he said, well, I was hunting a monster when they showed up. They didn't seem to like me, but that was sorta expected. We chased each other and pretty much just been training our skills against one another. Artemis raised a brow here. She could tell her son is not telling her everything. She glanced around at her hunters. Many of them were staring at Naruto in disbelief. Even Zoe was staring before she scowled and was about to say something before Artemis raised her hand to be quiet. Artemis lowered her head and said, Zoe, what did you plan for him if you actually caught him? Zoe looked down. Milady, we did not wish to force you any more shame from having this boy spread his lies. Thy legacy as a maiden shall not be ruined by this boy claiming to be thy son. He shall be punished for this. However, Artemis cut her off. Enough, Zoe. She looked at all the hunter as they looked down slightly. She felt horrible that the girls she spent many years with, some of them even hundreds of years, all had the intention of hurting if not killing her son. She sighed and stood next to Naruto. My maidens, it is time to tell you the truth. She places her hand on her son's shoulders. This is indeed my son, Naruto. The hunters' heads all shot up at this. Zoe nearly cracked her neck at the speed her head moved. Milady, Artemis looked at them before she began. It was the time I took that little vacation. The year you all stayed at Camp Half-Blood. I am sure you can all remember. The hunters scowled at this. They remembered that horrible year they were forced to stay at camp. It was not just a short visit but for the whole year. They were forced to train and do camp activates and had to be like other campers. The only reason they did not complain too much about going and staying there was because their goddess was stressed as it was from her brother, Aphrodite, and some of the others' gods, and figured she needed a break. The stay was not very enjoyable as they kept getting some fights and the end result had a few cabins burnt down. Artemis went on as Naruto listened as he never knew how his parents got together. I traveled to the elemental nations and found myself in a wonderful forest. The trees were so large and healthy compared to the world today and even in our prime. The game was plentiful and some were quite a challenge. She smiled recalling how she hunted some of the wild animals and how fast they were. Not to mention some were powerful and larger than normal, like the tigers she hunted and skinned, making several good pelts, one used as a good blanket. She stopped musing and went on. I found a village of shinobi called Konoha, or the village hidden in the leaves. While some of the men there I found annoying, there were many powerful female warriors in their ranks. Kushina smiled and butt in, including yours truly. Naruto looked at her. You're from the village. Kushina nodded. Yep, trained under Tsunade-sensei and gained my own team to train. I was a high-ranked jounin and was once a candidate to be the 4th Hokage. Only your father could beat me in the fight. Naruto was stunned at such a powerful fighter before him. Artemis smiled. Yes, Kushina was a friend of mine in the village besides those in the Inuzuka clan and a few others. On one of my outings I met Naruto's father, Minato. She closed her eyes. He was not like any man I knew before. He was powerful but he did not flaunt it or brag about it. He had respect from the village as its leader but he was no tyrant nor did he oppress the people. I never met a man like him before. We met a few more times and got to know one another. I have to say during those times, Artemis blushed slightly. I realized I had fallen for him. I never knew that he was a half-blood either until it came up and it surprised me. He seemed so unlike his father Hermes. Zoe was staring before she finally said, Milady, does that mean? Artemis knew what she was asking and replied, yes, I gave my maidenhood to Minato when I realized of my feelings but knew we could not be together. Both of us had our duties and he could not leave the village he loved so much. In our union Naruto was born and I carried him for those 9 months and I knew my child would be special. Many times I wondered if this is how all mothers felt, even my own. She turned and smiled at Naruto who smiled back. It broke my heart when I had to leave and so soon after your father had died. You have endured so much my son. I feel like I failed as a mother. Naruto was stunned before he held her shoulder, stunning the hunter at the action and how Artemis allowed it. Mom, you could never failed. Yeah, I was alone for a long time but I never gave up. I knew I was not abandoned like some people said to me. I knew my parents loved me. Tears formed in his eyes as Artemis smiled lovingly at her son. And here you are. You accepted me for who I am. You love me even after everything. I could never say you failed me. Artemis wiped her eyes as she pulled her son into a hug. Kushina smiled at her friend and the hunters stared. Many were recovering from the news broken to them and others could not help but smile or wipe a tear at the loving scene. Many recalled their own mothers and how they missed them so. Zoe shook staring at the woman she idolizes and maybe even sees as a mother. She bit her lip as she closed her eyes. She knew Artemis would not lie about such a matter. Then she remembered she tried to kill Naruto before as did the others hunters. They slowly paled as they realized what they have done. They assumed that Naruto was always lying about being the son of their goddess but the fact he was telling the truth, and they all tried to kill him. This was not something Artemis could overlook or forgive easily. Artemis broke the hug and turned to look at her hunters with a frown on her face. Now what do we do? Naruto looked at her. Artemis glanced his way and said, they all attacked you with the intention to kill. Not only that, but they did so behind my back and to my own son. While I am at fault for not speaking out sooner, I am afraid I cannot let this go. You have done nothing to have them attack or even think of harming you, and it is something I cannot allow. It speaks against me, and this shall look badly against not only my hunters but what we stand for as well. While we try and live a life without boys in them, we do not go out of our way to attack. We defend if necessary, but not the aggressor. They have to be punished for this, I am afraid. The hunter were stunned, but they also saw the hurt look on her face. They knew she did not want to punish them, but they felt they deserved it. They did attack her son with intent to maim if not kill. Kushina then had an idea to help both parties as she noticed Naruto looked uncomfortable now. Hey, how about we let Naruto decide the punishment? He is the one they attacked after all. I am sure he would decide a fair punishment. Artemis thought about it before she nodded. Very well, Naruto will decide a proper punishment then. Naruto blanked here before he grimaced. Maybe we can let them off easy. The hunters were stunned. They thought he would have them endure some sort of horrible punishment, but he wanted them let go. Artemis frowned. Naruto, you know they tried to kill you. Naruto nodded. Yeah, I get that. And I faced life or death battles several times already, and that was even before I came here. Heck, I even found a friend in and after some of those battles. His mind wandered to Zabuza, Gaara, Orochimaru and the Sound Four. He also remembered Haku, whom he knew would have been friend in another life, and to Gaara, who was like him in so many ways. Besides, they were after me because they wanted to fight and defend you even if they were misguided. They fought me to help you, or at least that is what they believed. I can't have them punished for that. Like Kakashi-sensei said, those who break the rules are trash, but those who abandon their friends are worse than trash. They went after me for you despite the rules. I can't punish them for that. Artemis scowled. While she knew of and was proud of her son's honor, it still did not help her predicament. She sighed before she came up with an idea. Fine, if you do not want to make a punishment, then I shall. For the next 6 weeks my hunters will go through an even harder training routine with both Kushina and Naruto as their trainers. Naruto raised a brow, wondering how training was punishment. Some of the hunters paled at this. Kushina took it upon herself, with Artemis's approval, to help train the hunters in fighting, tracking and anything else that Artemis did not cover as much. Now this itself was not the problem, but she tended to go to both the extreme and overboard. Many times the virgin woman ran them into the ground in the name of training. Only Zoe did the best so far, and even then she sometimes dreaded the next training event. Kushina laughed, seeing their faces. Yeah, she was hard on them, but that was how she showed she cared. She helped them defend themselves when needed and helped them outside of training, and was like an aunt to them in the years she joined the hunters. One reason they call her Auntie K. Zoe was quiet as she expected punishment, knowing she was at fault. She was surprised at Naruto not wanting them punished even after everything. She figured she would be punished the most, not for leading the hunt against him, but for her words she said that made him lash out. Maybe he is not like other boys. What makes you what you are, Naruto? Kushina laughed. Oh, so the girls get even more training? Well, I was waiting for a few more years, but you girls can take the training I gave my student guy when he took the Chunin exams. Prepare for the workout like you never seen before. The girls paled even more at her words. Naruto looked at Kushina. You know, super bushy brows. Kushina raised a brow, as did Artemis. Was he a tall man with a bow haircut, thick eyebrow that looked like caterpillars were glued to them? A big nose with freckles, wears a green leotard and always cheerful and shouts about flames of youth. Naruto nodded. Yep, is he a friend? Kushina scoffed. Please, guy was my student when I had a genin team. Artemis sighed. I recall him. If it wasn't for the fact he dislikes projectiles, I would say he was a son of Apollo with that smile of his and sunny demeanor. Annoying, but not the worst man out there. Kushina laughed, recalling how Artemis told her this before. Yeah, that's him. How is the big huggable lug? Naruto shrugged. Not bad, I guess. I don't know him that much. He has a team of his own and a student that acts like him and is super strong. I think he was an elite jounin last time I heard. Kushina nodded. Good, if he slacked off, which I doubt given his attitude, I would have to beat some sense into his thick skull. Artemis cleared her throat. As amusing as that sounds, I think we have other matters to deal with. She turns to the hunters. I want you all rested and cleaned up, because tomorrow your punishment will begin. As Naruto will be training you as well, he will be staying with us for the time period. Some hunters groaned but quieted down as Artemis narrowed her eyes. They nodded and moved away to their tents to rest and get cleaned up like they were told. Artemis watched them, catching eyes with Zoe as she passed and saw the disappointed look in her lieutenant eyes. As she peeked into her thoughts, Artemis found she was disappointed in how she acted and how she must have dishonored her lady. Artemis made a note to talk to Zoe later. It was then did Artemis notice some hunters were missing. Naruto, do you have an idea where the rest of my hunters are? Naruto thought about it before he suddenly got the memory of one last clone who just dispelled as one hunter hit it. Somewhere in the woods, very angry with my clone right now. Artemis raised a brow as Kushina laughed, figuring out what happened. Scene change. Several hours later the group was eating dinner around the campfires. The last group of hunters returned in a bad mood and it did not improve when they learned the news. Most of the girls said nothing as they ate, planning to head to bed early as their punishment starts tomorrow. One reason many were not talking because they were listening to Naruto. His mother had asked him of some of his missions and life in the village and he was explaining his time during the Chunin exams. Naruto was explaining not only his fight, which Artemis found amusing, and learned of one of the dogs that was born with her blessings also was there, of the fight Hinata had with Neji, which caused Artemis to scowl at how Neji belittled her in his actions, but very glad Naruto paid Neji back for his crimes, and many of the hunters thought Hinata was someone of strong will to keep fighting and thought she might make a good hunter. Now he was finishing Lee's fight with Gaara, which Kushina was listening intently to hear what her student was teaching his own star pupil, and the hunters were stunned at the tale of the fight with Lee's skill despite only fighting taijutsu and the way Gaara was able to fight with only sand. So after the last attack landed, Lee was panting all tired and his skin was back to normal. It seemed that his move had worn off and he looked like he was hurt. But Gaara was still able to send his sand out. Even while tired and injured he still tried to move. The sand wrapped around his left arm and leg and the sand broke them badly. Then Gaara sent a large amount of sand to finish him off. But before it could hit him, super brushy brows, Guy-sensei appeared in front of Lee and knocked the sand away. Kushina nodded approvingly. If Guy let his student Simple take that last blow, she would have to hit him hard like she already owned him for teaching Lee the inner gates, before he was even Chunin level. She understood his reasoning, but she would have waited until he got to a higher level of training to balance him out. Naruto went to Gaara as the medics checked Lee out. He seemed to have passed out, as they said his arm and leg were badly damaged and he might not be a ninja ever again. But then something amazing happened. He smiled as the girls listened harder as they gotten into the story. Lee stood up and was in his stance. Guy was telling him he did enough and to rest, but Lee was still passed out. His will to prove himself was so strong he was still willing to fight even after all of that. The girls looked amazed, even Zoe. Zoe thought of the one hero that betrayed her and compared him to this Rock Lee. She figured Hercules was stronger no doubt, but she thought Lee had the stronger will. To still try and fight even when he would be told he cannot fight again was nothing short of amazing to her, and for a simple, sort of, mortal. Zoe could not help but ask, what happened to Lee? Naruto smiled, even in the hospital and told he was too injured to be a ninja he still tried and trained. Sakura said when she went to visit him he was outside without the nurses knowing and was trying to do one-handed push-ups even when his arm and one leg in a cast. Later Granny Tsunade used her medical ninjutsu and healed him all up. I last saw him when he came to help me out and he looked like he was never hurt. I know he survived his fight. Nothing can take that guy down. Artemis smiled. She had a feeling Lee was more than meets the eye. Still her son had a great admiration for him and she can tell why. He might be one of the few boys she can have respect for. She can tell Naruto was not only telling the truth but also respected Lee and wanted to do nothing more than to fight as equals. Kushina laughed. Guy found himself a good student. Reminds me of him too from the sounds of it. Bet he took training seriously too. The other hunters looked nervous at their Auntie Kay. They knew the woman would not go easy on them tomorrow, but even harder than before, but most felt they deserve it after everything. With final good night all around they headed for their tents. Kushina noticed she was there with only Artemis and Naruto. Thinking the pair need some alone time, she headed for her tent so she can rest for tomorrow. Artemis and Naruto were quiet, with the only sound being the crackling fire. Naruto finally said it seems weird to see someone from back home, even from the elemental nations. Artemis smiled, both for the fact her son was able to break the silence and for the topic of her friend. Kushina is different, no doubt about that. She is blunt at times and not afraid to speak her mind. Nearly got her into trouble a few times in the years she has been here. She came back with me when I had to. She stopped, unable to say it. Naruto figured it out but did not say anything. He knew his mother had to get back for both her duty and for her hunters. His world was not her home, not matter what, and as much as he wished she could have stayed, he knew it would hurt even more to see her go at a young age when it would impact him more. So why did she leave? Artemis glanced at him and said she had someone she would have given herself to. But the problem was he was in love with someone else and they were expecting a baby. Kushina might have been sad as she told me, but she was happy for the couple and gave them nothing but their full support. He died the same night the fox attacked and she felt like she needed to get away. So she came back with me and became one of my hunters. Naruto nodded as that made sense to him. He did not notice the sad look Artemis sent towards Kushina's tent. Naruto let out a big yawn, causing his mother to chuckle. It seems my hunters are not the only ones that need some rest. Your tent is right next to mine. Naruto nodded as he thought that would be a good idea. As he headed towards it, Artemis said, Naruto, I wish to talk to you about something in the morning. Come see me when you get up. Naruto waved back showing he understood. Naruto entered his tent and found it simple, his pack and gear next to a sleeping mat with a deer pelt to act as a blanket. He yawned once more and climbed into his bed. He found the pelt nice and comfortable and soon fell asleep without noticing. Naruto's dream. Naruto found himself at a dining room table with two people sitting across from each other. He saw that one was Jiraiya, or as he called him, Pervy Sage. Across from him was the fourth Hokage. Naruto was stunned seeing his father before he figured he was seeing some sort of memory. His father had the same color hair he has and just as spiky but slightly longer. The coat he was mostly seen in was draped over the chair behind him. Naruto noticed his father was holding a book before his attention was drawn to their conversation. I have to say, Sensei, it is really good. Jiraiya laughed, rubbing the back of his head. Maybe, but it didn't sell much. Maybe I can spice it up with a heated love scene or two. Minato smiled and looked at his sensei. Don't let Artemis hear you say that. Jiraiya paled at this and glanced around. He just gotten back to his old body a week ago and he rather not experience that again. Naruto laughed hard at that reaction. Minato then said, but jokes aside, Artemis actually liked the book. She said it reminded her of some of the heroes, actually respectable heroes she always reminds me, in her time when the gods were in their prime. The main character really got her attention. She said for part of the book she imagines herself as the character, forgetting it was male. Jiraiya smiled, recovering from his scare. Well, high praise from her then. I wish others could see that as well. Minato nodded, yes, shame really. But we liked the character so much we decided to name our son after him. Naruto gasped quietly. Jiraiya blinked, really? It is just a simple name. I came up with it when I was eating some ramen. Minato laughed, then it makes even more sense. All she has been every craving has been ramen for months now. But we agreed it is the best name. Jiraiya was stunned and smiled, feeling honored. Well, if I named him then I guess that makes me godfather. Absolutely not. Naruto and the two adults turned to see Artemis in the doorway. She was in an older adult form, much like the one Naruto has seen her as, and dressed in plain silver and white clothes, simple housewear style. Naruto noticed her stomach was round and showing signs she was with child. She walked over and narrowed her eyes at Jiraiya. The only reason I did not keep you a warty toad is because of Minato. Why he has such praise from you I will never know. The only good thing to come from your teachings was the fact he did not become pervert like you. Normally Jiraiya would claim he was a super pervert and not a simple one, but considering who he was talking to he resisted. Okay, so no godfather. Still, I at least wish to teach him a thing or two. Artemis huffed and sat down next to Minato. Only Minato and whomever becomes my son's teacher will teach him. You will do nothing of the sort. Minato chuckled, come on Artemis, Jiraiya-sensei is a good teacher. He can teach a lot to our son. Artemis frowned and glanced to her love. He should be lucky he gets to even interact with our son at all. Minato smiled at her and rubbed her hand with the back of his thumb. Please Artemis, for me. Artemis frowned slowly drops before she sighed, very well if you wish. She then shot a sharp glare, which made Jiraiya flinch and try and back away. But if you try and turn my son into a pervert I will do worse than turn you into a toad. Jiraiya nodded so fast he was like a bobblehead doll. Minato laughed at this interaction and Naruto could not help but join in. Dreams ends. Naruto shifted as he woke up. He stretched and remembered where he was. He got up and out of his tent. The camp looked empty and he could hear the sound of shouts and grunts showing the hunters were training already. He rubbed his eyes as the sun broke the tree line and Naruto moved closer to his mother's tent. He stopped, not sure if she was awake or not. Come inside, Naruto. Naruto entered the tent and found his mother sitting crossed-legged with a large scroll in front of her. Looking around the larger inside of the tent at the different animal skins and trophies before he sat like his mother across from her. Artemis opened her eyes and said, Naruto, there was another reason I wished for you to help train my hunters. Not only for both their punishment and benefit but also to get close to you before you head back to camp and help teach you. Naruto raised a brow. I thought the gods can't interact with their kids much. She smiled. Well, that was mostly to prevent favoritism and to keep the gods from interfering on quests. Also it is to keep the gods from neglecting their duties and force the world into chaos from the neglect. While I can see it as unfair to the children as they are forced into this life, I know the law must be held. However, in our case you are helping me train my hunters to keep the others from saying we broke the rules. I am one of the goddess that spend much time outside of Olympus, so I can also interact with mortals and half-bloods without much interference. But enough of that, I have something for you. She held the scroll out to her son. Naruto took the scroll and looked at it. What is it? She smiled as he slowly opened it up. A jutsu your father made. A jutsu that has the potential to change the world and turn the tide of battle. A jutsu that can be dangerous to those that face it. The one jutsu your father was most famous for and gave to me for safekeeping for when I was to leave and prevent others from stealing it. He planned on teaching you when you would have come of age. Now it is my duty to teach you. Naruto looked up from the scroll, breath taken. Artemis continued, the jutsu that made him famous. The one named after his grandfather. The flying thunder god, the Hiraition jutsu. End. Oh, make Naruto's luck. Naruto was sitting with several of the hunters. They were around us sitting in one of the main tents playing a card game. As the rain came pouring hard and training was finished, Artemis felt it was best that Naruto interacted with the hunters while she had to go to Olympus for a meeting. After a short while they decided a simple friendly card game to pass the time and relax. The hunters have gotten used to Naruto and started to respect him. Naruto looked around at the four hunters, including Zoe and Kushina, before one by one they showed their cards for their game of 5-card poker. Zoe seemed to be winning with a full house. Naruto grinned and showed his card, getting groans from the others watching the game. He showed a straight flush. Zoe threw her cards in the air. How can I win every time? The others are watching, so thou cannot be cheating. Naruto shrugged. No idea, I always had good luck in games like this. The others sighed before Zoe started the game again with another hunter that was not playing, dealing the next hand, determined to win at least once. Naruto shrugged once more, not really recalling how his luck changed so much. Flashback. Naruto was 6 years old as he was running down the street in the village. He was excited as old man Sarutobi promised he would not only teach Naruto a card game but play a little with him. He paused when he saw a young lady trying to gather a bunch of card and pictures she had dropped when someone had bumped into her. Seeing her try and gather them up as fast as she can in the wind, he ran over and helped gather the stuff up. The lady, a slightly short woman with curly blonde hair, smiled and took the cards and pictures that Naruto handed to her. Why, thank you, young man. I needed these for my game later. Luck is on my side. Naruto grinned, happy to help. Good luck. I am going to learn a new game from the old man Hokage too. I hope I do good. The woman giggled and patted his head. I am sure you will be very lucky in your game. Naruto grinned even bigger at the praise, not noticing his body had a slight glow to it before it was gone. He then remembered he had to go, so he ran off as he waved back to the lady. Taichi smiled as she waved back. Such a nice boy. I think my blessing with luck in games will make him very happy. He was much nicer than that rude Tsunade girl I bumped into many years ago on my last vacation. That's it for part 8. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.